Welcome everybody to episode 6 of the Timely Pursuits channel. I'm Azad.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're here to deliver this casual and informative, opinionated and superfluous show where we talk about horological happenings and what is going on with our watch collecting lives. It's been a little bit of time since our last episode, largely because the last one was such a big one, all about the British Watchmakers' Day. How have you been, Kevin?
I've been okay, just recovering from a cold, but apart from that, I'm fine, doing okay. What about you, Azan? How are you doing?
Health-wise, perfectly fine. Not been up to too much. Trying to arrange some meetups, hopefully fairly soon. But of course, with British Watchmakers' Day coming up, a lot of people and a lot of the brands are very focused on that here in London. What about you? Did you have any events recently?
I've been invited to a couple of things. I did manage to get to a Girard Perregaux event a week or so ago. It was just some enthusiasts getting together, talking about watches, shooting the breeze about why we buy watches, what we bought, why we bought them. It was a very, very interesting and a reflective time about Girard Perregaux, what they are up to, what's coming down the stream with regards to the design. And obviously it was the day that they launched the Aston Martin collaboration watch, which in my opinion is very, very nice. I do like it a lot. It's a stunning piece and it needs to be seen in the metal. The photos definitely do not give it justice whatsoever. It's a lovely piece. But yeah, we just sat around, then we had lunch and then talked more watches and then ended up with some more champagne somewhere else. So yeah, it was a great day.
Very good. What have you got on your wrist today, Kevin?
Today I have got on a Tissot PRX Booker edition, one of my favourites, a very, very good watch. I like it a lot. They did 888 of these, I think, or is it 1888? I can't remember. It's limited edition anyway, and yeah, it's nice. Every person should have a PRX in their collection. What about you? What are you wearing?
Well, today I am wearing the Zenith Defy Skyline. This is the chronograph with the 1/100th of a second turnaround chronograph. So very fast movement indeed. We'll put up some B-roll of how it runs and how it operates a bit later on. As we're recording, it is the 1st of March, so it's El Primero Day as we like to call it to the Zenith fanboys. It's also the first day of Ramadan, so anybody who is fasting out there, Ramadan Kareem to you. It's obviously an important period in the calendar for many of us. Moving on to the news and new releases section of the show. It's a big anniversary year for a number of the watch brands out there, but I don't think many come bigger than this. Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, so if you're not aware, it's the 150th anniversary of Audemars Piguet. And I know I've pronounced that almost 100%. We're going to call it AP going forward. So yes, it's the anniversary of AP. They have been around for a number of years, and to celebrate that, they've released a number of watches in existing collections. They've released some Code 1159s, some Royal Oaks, and just here to talk about them and go into a bit more detail. So the major ones are the perpetual calendars. They've released a 150th anniversary 41mm Royal Oak perpetual calendar open work limited edition. Sorry about the long title, but that's what they've called it. It's limited to 150 and it's using the older movement, the 5135, which is interesting because they've also teamed it up with a new metal or material, I should say, which is titanium and BMG. Now, BMG is bulk metal glass. It's an interesting material they've used, and the last time they used it, it was for Only Watch, which is a charity which no longer exists. And that particular piece went for 3.1 million Swiss francs or US dollars, or a lot of money anyway. So this one is going to be highly sought after. It's got an anniversary rotor as well on the backside, open case back. It's a lovely piece. If I had the money, which is going to be retailing at 175,000 Swiss francs, and obviously the connections, I would certainly try and get hold of this one. It's going to be a stunning piece. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Other things they've released 3 Codal M59s, a couple of offshore ceramics in black and green. The Codal M59s, I think there are 3 of them. One's in sand gold, the other 2 are in grey dials. My favourite version of the 3 is the sand gold version, which also has a tourbillon movement and 1.2 carats of diamonds. I do love sand gold. It shimmers in the light and it does vary in colour depending on the lighting conditions. It's a stunning piece. If I had the money, yeah, absolutely. It's the same sand gold which was in the Brutalist remastered edition, which came out last year from AP. The other thing that they've also done in sand gold this year as a new release is the perpetual calendar in sand gold, which is using a new movement. It's a 7138 movement, which means they've eliminated the pushers. So when you set in the time, the day, date, calendar, you use the crown as opposed to the pushers. You normally have a little pin where you push on the side to put everything forward or backwards. They've got rid of that and they use the main crown on the dial. It's a lovely piece. Well, sorry, I'm drilling over it as we speak. Again, it's sand gold, my favourite version of gold at this moment in time. And yeah, it's not too bad. I think it's about 130 Swiss francs, something like that, excluding that. I love it, absolutely love it. What are your thoughts on these 3 and the AP's 150th anniversary, Azad?
I like a lot of them. I think the perpetual calendar is my favourite of the bunch. It's been a common complaint for quite a while. Why can't AP do away with the tool pushers for the perpetual calendar? And then now they're finally using the crown, as some of the other brands have managed to do. JLC, I think, for quite some time. So that's a nice improvement. The sand gold, I've seen some renders, maybe even images as well, where it looks really great. Although I have seen some images from some of the watch media, and I believe it's their own photographs, where actually it looks very light and a little bit coppery. And so I think it's one of those things where you've got to see it in the metal to know whether you like it or not. But one of the kind of the controversial questions I've got for you, and this isn't just AP, I think this is quite a lot of companies that have been mixing some of their materials in order to get different shades of gold. Are they just cheapening out? Because you can get different shades of gold depending on where the gold comes from. The amount of iron ore that's kind of mixed into the gold can determine how red or how yellow it is. But if they're starting with just 18 karat gold and then they're mixing more copper in and more palladium in to change the shades, are they not just detracting from the purity of the gold, which surely brings the costs down for them?
Oh, that is controversial. Now, I understand where you're coming from, but knowing brands, they want to be individual and they want to have their own proprietary version of gold. I think it's more to do with that they want their own version of gold. I mean, Omega, all the brands do it. Omega started off with Sedna Gold. They've now gone on to various other versions. AP are just following the trend of having their own version of gold. And you may be right. The benefit cost-wise is that less gold is used, and which means the material in the case is a cheaper version. I understand where you're coming from, but I think it's more to do with marketing, proprietary cases and materials they use. They can say it's a unique material in their marketing spiel.
Well, these are fantastic pieces, and if you're lucky enough to see them, let alone afford and buy them, I think you'd enjoy that experience. So congratulations, Audemars Piguet, for reaching that big milestone anniversary.
Yes, congratulations, AP. This is the first batch of releases. If you go onto their website, you'll see a icon for 150th anniversary, and there's a game you can play where you can get badges and stuff. But the badges, you can't get all the badges because they are releasing more watches later in the year. I think it's going to be mid-October. So keep an eye out for more AP releases.
Moving on to the timely topics segment of the show. And you've had a little bit of a preview as to what we're going to be talking about today. That's right, it's going to be integrated bracelet watches, specifically focusing in on the stainless steel variety. Now, these are nothing new. They've been around for a very long time. I actually struggled to find details of the very first integrated bracelet watch, but some people point to the Cartier Santos as one of the oldest pilot watches made available to the public. They were very popular through the 1960s and 1970s in particular as a design style for wristwatches, but they then faded away. And I think part of the reason for that is, of course, if you have an integrated bracelet design, you can't simply switch it out for an aftermarket leather strap or rubber strap. And so there is an element of hindrance there in the ownership of an integrated bracelet watch. However, they have been popularized once again, especially in the last, I'd say, 5 to maybe 7-8 years, with the rise in popularity of the said mentioned Royal Oak models and some of the other Gérald Genta inspired watches as well. So for this segment, we are going to just discuss some of our favorite integrated bracelet watches that are out there, some of the icons, and also some of the ones that have done a little bit less well. But typically, what we have seen in the last decade or so is the integrated bracelet watch was largely reserved for some of the big brands. Smaller brands more recently have started to bring out some of their own, and we'll also talk about those. But let's start with some of the big brands out there. So Kevin, tell me about the big ones that you like, the icons out there.
So yes, thanks. I suppose the big icons, the big three, are AP, the Royal Oak, Patek's Nautilus, and the IWC Ingenieur, all designed by the man himself, Gérald Genta. He's had his magic touch over these three brands and these three watches, and they're back in the 70s. They were huge, absolutely huge. They set the tone for what we are wearing today. AP's Royal Oak, beautiful. Patek Nautilus, yep, very, very nice. And the Ingenieur, it's amazing. Out of the three, Azad, which one is your favourite as it stands at the moment, the current iterations?
Ooh, I'll be honest. In terms of the bracelet design, I'd say the Royal Oak is my favourite bracelet, but not the watch head.
Okay.
Not a fan of the watch head. I prefer the Nautilus watch head. And I quite like the older Ingenieurs. I'm not a massive fan of the new ones that have just been re-released. But I can see the appeal, put it that way.
Okay, that's interesting. Mine, I think, is the AP Royal Oak. I could be because I've got one. But actually, guys, let us know in the comments below what's your favourite out of the three and the current iterations. But yeah, I think mine, AP Royal Oak. It's beautiful. And the bracelet is just, well, you can't beat it. You really cannot beat it.
I mean, to tell you how much I like the bracelet, I've actually got... You can't see this on your screen, but I do actually have one of these kit bracelets and cases for my Casio G-Shock, the Casio Oak, as people refer to it.
Yes.
So, I enjoyed the design and as a piece of fun, but I'm not there yet in terms of shelling out the amount of cash for the whole watch. And we will talk about, of course, some other brands in just a moment where I think there are elements of all of these designs that I think, for me, have worked better. But let's move on. So I wanted to mention the other member of the Holy Trinity, Vacheron Constantin, with the overseas in particular. I'm a big fan of the chronograph versions. They've always really attracted me. I love the style of the bracelet with the Maltese cross kind of integrated into not only the clasp but the bracelet design as well. And of course, more recently, the release of the 222 has brought that design back as well. They've just brought out the stainless steel version, which I think we have covered in a previous episode too. And I like both of these. I really do. What do you think about Vacheron's?
I do like them both, probably equally. Potentially the 222 more. However, it's the cost of the 222 over the overseas. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to me anyway. So for that reason, I prefer the overseas, in particular the dual time, which I think is Well, it's spectacular. That movement is brilliant. I love the dial layout on that, and the fact that it's got no date window makes it even better for me, because all the others have a white date window and a black dial or a blue dial, or I suppose it doesn't really matter on the silver one. But yeah, the overseas is amazing. 222 is lovely. If you have ever get a chance to wear one, try one on, definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting when you have the combination of the overseas and the 222, you almost get a really nice blend of a sports watch and a dress watch. You know, it could be great as a two-watch collection.
Yes, the overseas and the 222, 100%. I mean, the overseas does come with the bracelet, the rubber strap, and the leather strap. And so it can be dressed up or dressed down. And it can easily be a one-watch collection. And the 222, definitely more of a dress watch. But yeah, either definitely is stunning.
Well, moving on to some of the other high-end brands from Switzerland, we have the brand that His Majesty the King chooses to wear, and that is Parmigiani Fleurier. They have the Tondagraphs with their integrated bracelet watches as well. And one of the things I really like about the Parmigianis is the way that they have this tier style lug shape that comes in from the side and straight into the bracelet, almost effortless and still quite unique in terms of their own design philosophy. That is going through a number of their watches in their range, but it's not as popular, I think partly because the distribution is pretty poor. I don't believe there are many retailers in the UK that sell them, so if you can see them in person, you're going to be very lucky.
Yes, you are. I think I've handled one or two in the past over the last, 15 years. So yeah, distribution is very, very poor. Would I buy one? Possibly not, but they are beautiful to look at. They generally have a micro rotor movement, which is incredible. And the design of those are absolutely spectacular. They're very clean. They use precious materials in a good way. And I like them a lot. But if you do buy one new, prepare to take a big hit, as soon as you walk out the door.
I don't agree. I own one and it has appreciated.
Right.
So I don't agree with that.
Oh, really?
At all. Well, I think it depends.
Okay.
I think it depends on the model that you get. So I bought one of the limited edition European models, which was the black dialed chronograph that they did a few years ago. You might have seen it at Watch Pro, actually, at the Watch Pro salon a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I managed to track the last one down available for sale in Europe and bought it. And actually, it's done pretty well since I purchased it. So it depends on which one you get. They are pricey, but they are in-house movements, incredibly well finished as well. So I think that they do hold up reasonably well for what they're offering.
Oh, that's good to hear. Obviously, you never buy a watch for investments, but you obviously don't want to lose too much money on them if you can. But Parmigiani are incredible, and it's a brand that needs to be more recognised, definitely in the watch community and in the wider space as well.
Well, moving on to another high-end brand which has certainly better availability in the UK, one that we've already mentioned today, which is Girard Perregaux. Now, the Laureato range has been quite popular for some time, and to be fair, it's been around also since the 1970s. There are potentially some design cues and similarities with the AP Royal Oak and the Nautilus, although in my opinion, I feel that the design of the Laureato is quite a lot more refined, nowhere near as aggressive as the Royal Oak. So much so that I own one myself, a 41mm in the silver or white dial. I'll show some images at some point here. I know you're a fan, Kevin, aren't you?
I am a fan of Laureato and Girard Perregaux in particular. It's a lovely piece. They are extremely well priced, in my opinion. They are classed as the poor man's Royal Oak, but it's they are lovely, and They are pushing the boundaries when it comes to their special editions with Aston Martin. They came out a couple of years ago with infused rubber in their dials, which are spectacular. The current one is hand painted dial with 15 coats of paint, which makes it shimmer. They do incredible stuff with the Laureato range. They are keenly priced and they are beautiful. I mean, out of the three, I don't know which one is my favourite, or out of the range, I should say, I don't know which one's my favourite. Colourway, possibly blue. The white's quite interesting. But yes, it's nice. They are lovely. And again, they need to be more recognised because of their history and what they're doing. Definitely.
One of the darlings of the watch community of late has been Czapek, another independent brand that really lent heavily into the integrated bracelet market with the release of their Antarctique. These come with a fantastic micro rotor movement that keeps them incredibly slim, and you can see where the inspiration from a lot of these watches come from. What do you think of Czapek, Kevin?
I do like Czapek. I've been close a number of times on purchasing a watch from Czapek. They are incredible. They're going from strength to strength. And wasn't it the designer from Czapek who also designed the Christopher Ward 12? Is that why they're so similar?
It's true. Christopher Ward poached the designer and came along, and that's where a lot of the design cues come from, absolutely. But with that in mind, could you see yourself shelling out for a Czapek, which is, just under £30,000 or so, somewhere between 25 and 30,000, or would you save a lot of money and just go for a Christopher Ward 12?
It depends on the dial, because they have done some really incredible and interesting dial variations. There was the Whirlpool one, which was absolutely stunning, and that's the only reason why I would buy something from them at £30,000 compared to a Christopher Ward 12, because they are just exquisite. The Whirlpool one they've done and various others, they are just absolutely spectacular, and they tend to be limited edition as well. So yeah, 100%. If the right model at the right price, i.e. expensive, and the right dial came along, then yeah, I can see myself purchasing a Czapek Antarctique, 100%.
Personally, I love the movement. I really do like the dials and the overall design. I'm less enthused by the bracelet, having handled them a couple of times at various shows. I haven't seen the high quality required to match the rest of the watch. And I think that's something that they need to work on to make them a little bit more sturdy, solid, shall we say. Because the one I handled basically was broken, frankly, which is pretty sad to see. So some room for improvement, shall we say, for a young brand, to be fair, has to be pointed out.
Two other brands which are definitely underrated from the jewellery side of watch collecting is Chopard and Bulgari. Chopard's Alpine Eagle is an amazing piece of workmanship. They have their own steel called Lucient steel, and the movements are 4 Hertz cost certified and are also in-house. They do an amazing work with regards to dials. They look stunning. They have a blue dial, obviously green, pink dial, which is absolutely beautiful. I would definitely wear that. And they generally have there's two types of automatics. They have an automatic, which is a full-size rotor, and they also have a micro rotor as well. My other favourite brand in this section is Bulgari, and I'm happy to own one. It is a Octo Finissimo, limited edition in titanium. Beautiful, absolutely so stunning, and the thinness of that dial of the watch itself is just incredible. What they've managed to pack into the 3-hand version, the chrono version, the minute repeater versions is just absolutely stunning, and they aren't too expensive. I mean, the standard 300 is about 13k now, but yeah, Bulgari are going from strength to strength. They did have the thinnest watch in the world, But yeah, if you like thin watches, if you like the integrated bracelet look and feel of a watch, my favourite is the Octos. You can't go wrong. What's your favourite out of the two?
I mean, I came very close to buying an Octo Finissimo. I love that. Do you remember the bright blue with the white subdial chrono that they did? I think it was a couple of years ago.
Yes.
In stainless steel. Really loved that watch. And sadly, it was one of those, never meet your hero watch moments where it finally arrived in the AD. I went to try it on and it just did not sit well on my wrist at all. Too flat. The effective lug to lug, I should say, was just too long. It just sat all wrong for me. And it's a shame because that would have been a fantastic movement as well, because not only is it the chronograph, but it's also got the GMT function built into it as well,
exactly,
which is something I didn't have in my collection at the time. I mean, since then I have seen I think it's the black or grey dialed version with the titanium sandblasted case, which comes I think on a rubber strap. That wears really well, but I found that actually I think it's the standard time-only models that wore best on my wrist. And to be honest, I find them a bit too dull. I wanted the complications to it. So, maybe eventually they'll release something a little bit smaller in size, which I would certainly go for. The Chopards I like, and I think if you want to stand out and have something a bit different from the herd, then it's a good watch to own. I personally, though, there are other watches out there in that price range that I would buy before a Chopard, but I certainly wouldn't put anybody off buying one.
Fair comments. I've heard a lot about when people try on the Bulgari Octo Finissimo, it doesn't sit well on people's wrists, and also the bracelet, it's a bit of a hair puller, but it's just one of those things. I love it. I absolutely love mine, and I'm so glad I got it. I've just put mine in for a service, and they reckon it's going to take 6 months for it to come back. Wow. Which is ridiculous, but it just goes to show, the amount of work that goes involved, and the high horology I think is involved in making these watches at a relatively affordable price. So 40k is a lot of money, but to stand out, 6 months is it's bearable. It's bearable, definitely bearable. But I'll wait to see what the price is going to be when it comes back.
Well, I mean, this is always one of the downsides of buying a high-end watch with their own very specific in-house movement. Typically, you're going to have to send it back to them rather than using a local watchmaker. And of course, the time it takes will be forever. But moving on to another high-end Swiss brand with a lot of technological power behind it is, of course, Zenith. And mentioned on my wrist already is the Defy Skyline edition. There are a number of these different versions available in steel, in titanium, in ceramics as well, some precious metals as well. I think it's certainly a strong look. It has been compared to the offshores in terms of the way that they might appear. But personally, I really like the technology behind it as much as the aesthetics. What's your view on these modern Zeniths, Kevin?
I do like Zenith, and it's something, again, everybody should have in their collection. The movements are absolutely stunning. The chronographs, especially, you have to get a Zenith with a El Primero movement with the chronograph, because it's just insane the way they go round. But yeah, it's something which I will get round to getting at some point. I haven't decided on which one yet. There are so many, and to be perfectly honest, I need to do a deep dive into the El Primero range and the Defy range to decide which one I will go with. So I'll leave the expertise up to you. You convince me which one to get.
Yeah, I suspect we need to do a trip down to the boutique at some point.
Yes,
just
definitely.
to have a look. Again, availability in the UK isn't great, to be honest. There are some ADs that have them. I'm trying to think if there is an actual Zenith boutique. I don't think there is. There's one that's run by Watches of Switzerland, but not their own. So maybe it's something that you need to do when you're the next time you're in Switzerland. I think that's probably the best thing to do, actually, to see the full range. I personally have had a great experience in Dubai in the boutique that they have there, where they've got the full range on offer to look at, along with a number of limited editions, which I've been very tempted by. But for me, it was this particular movement in the way that it has two main barrels. So if you wind the watch one way, you're winding the time component. You wind the watch back the other way, you're winding up the chronograph, which uses a lot of power to be able to go at the speed that it does. So yeah, I love that function of it. Even though it is a big watch, actually in titanium, especially on the rubber strap, it is so comfortable on the wrist.
Cool. I like it. I do like them. One day. So another brand that we both like and enjoy, which has gone into the sports watch integrated bracelet dress watch model, is Omega. We've just had a look and we've counted up over 140 SKUs of that particular brand, and it's the Constellation range. It's lovely. It's very, very nice. So they do everything from quartz automatic to gold, bimetal. So they've got you covered if you want a sports watch with an integrated bracelet. I personally think they're going more towards the dressier side of things, but they are lovely. Meteorite dial with a green dial with a silver, also a stainless steel case. They are lovely. They've got you covered, and you can't go wrong with Omega. What are your thoughts on Omega Constellation?
So one of the first watches I bought from Omega was the Globemaster Constellation, the white dial, or the snow globe as I like to call it. But that's not an integrated bracelet watch, not really. So I don't count that. And I'm definitely a fan of these Constellations, but I don't own one at the minute. And that's mainly because when I've tried the nicer dial versions that are supposedly aimed at men, the 41mm diameter ones, I've just found them too big. The lug to lug is too big. I'd really struggled to wear those. The 39mm versions wear much better on my wrist, but they are supposed to be ladies' models, and so I've struggled to find a color dial combination that is to my taste. But hopefully they'll start to release more of the nice new meteorite dial models that they've just done for the 41 in the 39, and then I'm definitely going to be looking to add one of those to my collection at some point.
Lovely. You mean you don't like diamonds on your watches?
I don't own any watches with any diamonds.
Oh,
for me anyway. My
so
missus,
disappointed in you. So disappointed.
I just don't roll that way, Kevin. It's just not me.
Fair enough.
Let's move on now to talk about some of the more budget-friendly options out there. Now, all of these are using some kind of third-party movement, although the first one I'm going to discuss actually bought the rights to that movement, and that is Bremont. They released the Supernova just over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and they brought in the K1 movement, brought it in-house from Swiss manufacturer Horage, and decided to release it in the integrated sports model, as you can see here. Now, I'm going to say it, I don't know if you agree with me, Kevin, this was peak hype of the integrated bracelet model. Since then, we've seen less and less releases, and it's interesting because I don't think this one landed very well, and that's even before Bremont had the issues with their rebranding. But you got to see this, didn't you? You went along to the event.
I did. I was very fortunate to get invited to their launch event at the Tower of London. We had a guided tour. They closed it completely down, so it was just for Bremont people, special guests who were invited. Lots of press there, lots of interested parties, and of course Giles and Nick were there. The watch itself is. It's an interesting piece. I can understand why they've gone into the integrated bracelet sphere, because it was, as you said, peak hype. If you had a watch brand and you didn't have an integrated sports watch, then pretty much everybody overlooked you, because everybody was purchasing, or the people were purchasing sports watches. And that was what was in vogue at the time. Nowadays, people have settled down, looking at other things they want to purchase. And, Bremont, I suppose, missed the boat somewhat with regards to that, because if it was a couple of years earlier, I think things might be different with Bremont. Who knows? But it's an okay piece. I wonder if they sold loads of them, but it was pricey at the time. It's about $8,000 for £9,000 for a stainless steel integrated bracelet, which is a lot of money. Then that's my thoughts on it. It's overpriced and they missed the boat. But let us know what your thoughts are down in the comments below about the Bremont Supernova. But what are your thoughts as well, Azard?
I do remember that Horage had a K1 model out in titanium, and I believe it was retailing at half that price. So
was it really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Obviously, Horage were always priced quite aggressively because they were still trying to grow the brand, and they've since moved away from the K1 movement anyway. But I think at that point, I knew that Bremont was potentially in trouble if they were pricing so aggressively at a time when everybody else was trying to bring costs down. And speaking of lower costs, the next three brands, I'm going to just club them together to save a bit of time, is, they've really managed to lower the entry point into the integrated bracelet market. And that is Maurice Lacroix with their Aikon range, Christopher Ward with their 12 range, and then, of course, now probably the best-selling integrated bracelet watch out there, and that's the Tissot PRX. What do you think of these three? They're all using some kind of Swiss movement, being ETA or Solita. What do you think of these, Kevin?
I actually do like the way these three brands are going. Maurice Lacroix, the Aikon, it's an interesting concept. They also use a plastic or resin. There are versions which are in funky colours for the younger generation, going into stainless steel, and they're priced round about £1,000 upwards. They're doing a skeletonized version as well. So yeah, they've got you covered. We cannot dismiss Maurice Lacroix, even though they are at a cheaper range. And speaking of which, they've also got Tissot and the PRX. Everybody should have a PRX in their collection. They are absolutely amazing value. They start at about £600 for there's quartz versions. You've got manual wind, you've got automatic, and they come in various different colours and sizes. Again, they've got you covered. And the bracelet, even though it's cheaper than AP, the quality is still there. It's Swiss made. It's part of the Swatch Group. So yeah, and the Christopher Ward, well, they've revolutionized, in my opinion, the way integrated watches are at that price point because of the quality, because of the design, and again, everybody should have a Christopher Ward 12 in their collection. They're just going from strength to strength, Christopher Ward, and because of the GPHG award they won last year or year before, they're much more well known in the world, and yes, it's just good on them. I'm glad they brought out the 12 in various sizes. They've got women's sizes, they've got men's sizes, different colours. There's something coming out which I'm involved with in a 12 very soon. So yeah, great. Absolutely love Christopher Ward.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, here is my titanium blue dialed version, which of course the camera is refusing to focus on, but I'll put some images up on there. Yeah, everybody knows I think I'm a fan of Christopher Ward and what they've been doing, and this model is excellent in the execution of that production. I think it is, in my opinion, a better watch than the Bremont, in my opinion. The movement is not as good, I will give it that, but it's still a very slim watch, and it delivers on exactly what the wearer needs with the aesthetics to go with it. One final brand I wanted to mention, which we've had on the show before, and that is Durenzo Watches. This independent micro brand has been very active in the integrated bracelet watch. This is the 04 that you can see on the screen, and you can see the resemblance with the Girard Perregaux Laureato with those curves coming through. But as I mentioned before, this is just a rounder version. And then something a lot more unique is the O2R, which is much more of a kind of cushion case design with also concave edges for the case. Very unique, incredibly different out there. And both of these watches were retailing at around the sort of £700-800 mark, including taxes.
Wow.
So you can see that even the micro brands are now able to deliver fantastic quality at affordable prices, which I think has really democratized the access to the integrated bracelet watches.
That's amazing value. They certainly do stand out, and they are different, definitely. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, that's all the time we have got for today. Thank you very much once again for joining us for episode 6 of the Timely Pursuits channel. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon if you want to keep up to date with releases of future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch or follow us further, you can find me on Instagram with the handle az.time, or you can tune in to the other YouTube channel, AZ Time. And Kevin, where else can people find you?
They can find me mainly on Instagram. It's Kevin_Roberts100. I'll be there. Please follow me. If you've got any comments about this particular episode or what you want to talk about, please hit the comments below and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you very much for joining us, and goodbye.
Goodbye. See you soon.